Right, I think we're ready to go live.
Yes.
So let's check. Sorry. Lastly, you want to sit down?
Yes.
So the idea of today is basically that people who want to create something with the existing system, let's say, are given the tools so they can implement their ideas. So my idea was basically that we can discuss, let's say, what kind of governance problems do you identify here in Barcelona, like locally, direct? What are your problems in your daily lives, or maybe wherever you come from? And we can, let's say, test out your ideas and discuss them in the group, like how to realize this using Bitnation software. So maybe for all of you, did everyone of you hear about Bitnation before, or maybe I should, yes.
If all of you have heard about it, I would like a little bit more of an explanation.
Okay.
I don't know fuzzy.
Okay, no worries. So basically, what Bitnation is, Bitnation creates software that can be used to provide governance services in a decentralized manner and without governments. So the idea is to step by step offer the same services that governments provide, but in a decentralized and borderless way, only between peers that are voluntarily agreeing to use this service. Because we have a big, let's say, geographic apartheid. People are divided through continents. This way, the metaphor of Pangea to bring people back together. And basically, you should have the same governance services worldwide. People should have this because they were born not to be discriminated from our governance services here in Northern Europe or North America. And so we should take this, the whole provision of governance services away from this geographically bound paradigm and make it borderless. So apart from that, we're using blockchain technology, which facilitates optimizing many bureaucratic tasks like certificates, authorization, agreements, and lots of business things. But apart from that, of course, it's about the users. So these new standards based on blockchain can only proceed when enough people use these kind of technologies, and when we can, let's say, identify good use cases that are like useful for people in their daily lives. They will actually start using this and seeing that this is much more convenient and also much more ethical than the existing government services. So yeah, what we're doing right now is we built an app called Pangea, which has its own mesh network, which is independent from blockchain, but for all the notarization and all the things that should be public, the details and information are timestamped on the Ethereum blockchain. So what we are building now is just the infrastructure for others to build their very own applications on top of it. So what we need are people who really want to use this infrastructure. We need ideas. So yeah, that's why I created this event and thought locals would already have some ideas, like what are the problems, and maybe we could just like have a free discussion about what you identified or what you think is best, or what could be improved. Let's say the existing existing jurisdiction where we live here today.
I came, even though the Bitnation that we created was very much just a club of artists and we made it just a track, I came here with a very similar idea, the one that you described. I've also been very independentist and been very involved politically. And one of the things that was running around in my mind is, could we create a Catalan Republic, virtual Catalan Republic, where the basic infrastructures that the state needs to regulate, leaving aside territory and army, could be represented, well represented, and so on. And now, what are the problems that we find I was going around my mind with this because I know if we could explain this properly, it was useful. We have a pool of 2.5 million people that are very, very, very motivated, and that could definitely be swayed into let's try something like this. But what are the problems that we're going to encounter? The first of all is taxation, in my opinion. If you can manage somehow to persuade an already existing institution that is already a government that works, has all of its system in place to make some kind of taxation system through a big nation, so through a virtual nation, maybe we would have to make a specific cryptocurrency. I don't know. But can we actually do it? Because one of the big problems that I see with the borderless nations is we're talking about is that they are voluntary. So taxes are not voluntary. Taxes are voluntary. So I think that this is one of the probably the toughest problem I think on this subject. At least the toughest one that I can come.
Okay, so your problem is that the things that are provided by government would not be paid voluntarily because taxation is very complex. I mean, if you make taxation voluntary, I think maybe I'm wrong, but most probably what you will find is a non-progressive taxation, or directly a non-existent taxation. There's a lot of some pockets of the population will pay taxes happily because they believe that taxation is necessary and you don't have schools if you don't pay taxes. But huge amount of population will be like, or I'm just not interested in contributing. There's a lot of people that just leave off the system. And I'm not precisely talking about the poor ones, usually it's rich. So, how do you solve this riddle?
Can be something like taxes as a service.
Okay.
Excuse me. Taxes as a service. Yeah, directly paying on demand, for a particular service that you want.
Yeah. I thought about this, but put this in perspective if you go to a hospital. Right? So we actually talked about this. If you put the money that you have to fund the hospital because you're sick, but to run a hospital you need the money of the ones that are healthy. Without that money, you only pay by use. So that's where it becomes really tricky.
But then again, you could have health insurance services just the same way that you have today. Just you would have a different way to organize it. Also, you would have a much broader base of clients and of people using the insurance. It's borderless. You would have worldwide client base.
Yeah.
Maybe it wouldn't be everyone like it's today. Like everyone's forced to pay healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's voluntary, you probably have enough people around the world to volunteer to pay their contributions and to cover the risks locally.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But sorry, when you say as a service, it's not like you pay for a service, but you contribute to your community when you use a service or make a service where you get the benefit, or a transaction, or any relation in the system.
Mm-hmm.
You are using the system, so benefit the system with part of your activity, and then this money is there for situations like people that don't have resources. But I think at the end, once the system is there, it's a consensus of people who is educated to arrive to solution.
Yeah.
But one of the things that comes to my mind when it comes about this situation about can we have a new nationality out of all these legal systems in this moment without being related to the place where you are. And all this, it came in my mind in the last week, 2 weeks. So, sorry, hopefully next time I can go deeper. But one of the first things that came to my mind, sounds very weird, is that it should be related to our land and where it's not existing yet, but it's in the time. And that's where it comes from. From Dubai 1 month ago, and in Dubai they make land from nothing. So if you are having action in a country that has no a company in a country that has all the system, you put an action. All the tax, all the laws are related to this territory. If you make a new territory in international waters,
but there's the
then there can be an action, and not everybody has to be there. But the things that happen there are new to board and need to be decided by all the community. And then there is not any last history that makes life in making a new. At least as a laboratory, it can be interesting, but I think not even a laboratory. As a new country, new relations in law, and all the court with the technology will help all the transactions, and the politics will be more, politics or the content will be more like which smart contracts will be done, and things have to the smart contract is there, fair for the country.
But the idea of Bitnation is really the non-geographical option, that you do not need to move away from where you were born, where you have your friends, where you speak the language, where you have your culture, that you do not have to move geographically in order to benefit from better government services. Because we already had like movements like Liberland, we had like free state movements where they try to make people like join in one geographic territory. But that makes it like really, really hard. But then you need to offer the full bulk of government services. But what we do right now is we particularize it. We like take it one by one, and we try to just offer like individual services we can already do in a digital way that are that can be possibly computed. For example, contracts. Like what Pangea specifically offers is that people who volunteer to use this make their contracts and agreements on the blockchain and not in the, let's say, Spanish jurisdiction. So they can customize their own laws, and they can do so without interference from the government, because it's all on the blockchain, it's cryptographically encrypted. And they can set up the multi-sig wallet in a way that, for example, if you send money, it's there, and the other person cannot run away with it, because he needs 2 or 3 keys to unlock this money. So he will need either the consent of the person who gave the money, or there's a conflict and arbitrator. So this conflict decide if the money really goes to this person or if it's sent back. So these are things that can already be computed. Of course, other services like education. I mean, education is already step by step already being offered online, but there are things that you still cannot offer digitally, like for example, defense. Or like a way to define, for example, also with notarization, we still do have the problem of really verifying if, for example, this land title is true. When I claim land on blockchain, this is really my land. Like I had the example in another meetup, someone said, yeah, I could claim that I own the moon. I could sell half of it for you. Yeah. So you also need some sort of verification. You could either have peer approval, if enough peers in the network prove that this is a true claim, or you could have a market of specialists like we have today with notaries. So you can think of different ways how the market will eventually solve the problem. But yeah, I mean, further down the road, I just want to say that Bitnation really wants to let people, to allow people to stay where they are right now. That they not have to like go to another place like an island or something like this in order to try out new systems.
I see more not like moving to a new place that can be, but it's like anchor the system in a land in a way that even though you are not there, you are under that jurisdiction and that system, and you belong to that.
So we already have this today, basically, with people like having their bank accounts in, I don't know, in Panama or Delaware, or like, you know, this kind of things where they are just registered but not living.
Yeah, but they are in Panama, which is particular.
No, but there's
not
also
a new action where everybody decides by what's going to happen in this new action.
No, there's also this. If you look for micronations, there's several experiments. There's this guy that found a piece of land between Moldavia and Ukraine, I think, that was a non-claimed land, and he's trying to get this strip of kilometer liberalized, like a few kilometers, square kilometers. He's trying to get this recognized by other nations so that it's a new state and so on. But there's several experiments like this. I'm wondering when you what would you consider, Eric, if you want to create a nation that is functional? Where would you start? So if we're talking about all the infrastructure that the government has, which would be for you the first one that we can, you know, sink our teeth in?
Well, like it's exactly what we're doing already with Pangea, the legal part.
Okay.
Like everything that has to do with law and justice, and like to give people security that things work in a given way, that they do not change like overnight. Like you have like this kind of
smart contracts.
Yeah, exactly. So they have like a constitution. That's what every nation, first of all, needs a constitution that guides their laws. And from there on to build up contracts, to build up relations, and that this law governs, let's say, all the interactions in this nation.
Who is the government? So how is the side who is contract, who is participating?
Well, that's the interesting part. So each nation builder, basically everyone who creates a DBVN, so DBVNs are decentralized, borderless, voluntary nations. This is like the virtual nations that you create with Bitnation. Each can decide their own decision-making mechanism. So they can choose if it should be like today's representative democracy, if it should be direct democracy, if it should be dictatorship, if it should be holocracy. So they can decide on their own, like how they want to design their system and how decisions should be made. And but apart from that, the nation itself does not give you the guidance of how to do this. So like what we do now, we can discuss it, and you can like propose your ideas, and you can. That's the whole idea of it, that you have competing jurisdictions with different systems, and you try out which one people like, and if you don't like it, you can always opt out. That's the thing. Like all citizens are voluntary. So like the one requirement that we have for all the DBVNs is that citizenship should be voluntary. You are not forced to be a member of this nation. Like we have today, you're born in Spain and you have to abide to the rules in Spain, and you cannot change it without leaving Spain. So that's the whole paradigm that we're trying to overcome.
Yeah, and after the constitution?
Well, after the constitution, I think you can already start to make like individual laws for example, like when you have contracts, or I mean, there are also things that can be used in like all the nations. Like also, Pangea offers you to create laws, to create the smart contracts, and people just use them. Like they have the laws themselves also have a reputation. If it's good, then not only one nation will use it, but many different laws. Maybe we'll use this particular law, for example, contract law, or maybe for marriage, or I don't know. Like it could be different things.
Yeah, I've heard about the marriage one that they've so small talk. So they talked about this marriage, anonymous marriage contract.
Yeah. So exactly, the point is, for example, that gay couples in Iran or in Russia should be able to marry on the blockchain without having to give away their identity to be traced or be traced by the governments. So we give them this pseudonymity, and at the same time they can save their assets and use the same legal security or the same advantages that they would have if they would marry in the traditional system. Or maybe even use different codes for like how to do the marriage. So there should be competing codes of law, and people should be able to choose voluntarily which one they like best. Only the volunteers who choose to opt into this will be forced, let's say, in a way to comply to this. So how is enforcement done? Enforcement is basically through reputation incentives, and by basically having their money locked if they are not complying to the contracts, to get the loss of the contracts.
When you say they're money locked, you mean there's already implemented a system of currency inside the Pangea?
I mean, we have this token, we have the PAD token, so that's already going to start on February 28th. Everyone can start buying PAD tokens and to use them to build nations, to create contracts, to offer services, and to buy arbitration services. We already have a market of arbitrators. But apart from that, every nation can create their own ERC20 token.
That's what I was interested about, because if you create a constitution and you want to make like a functioning state, you will need to be able to issue currency, you need to be able to taxate, you will need to be able to do a few things which are the cornerstone of what a state is.
Yes, so every nation can choose themselves. If they want to create a new currency, or maybe they use another one that exists already, maybe they even want to use a euro, they could do a euro peg. They could create a token, or maybe I think it already exists, like tokens that are 1 to 1 to euro, 1 to 1 to dollar. Yeah, exactly. So you could also use this if you want to just make everything the way it is today, adjust on Pangea. So it's just going to be like cryptographically encrypted, and it will be safe from the government. It depends on the nation builders what systems they design. So they could have a capped like a supply, like it's a fixed amount, or they could have inflation. It depends on themselves. The thing is that it's not forced. So if you see it's a scam, you will just not use it. It will have a bad reputation. I think you would only want to be in a nation that cannot overnight change its constitution.
Yeah, this one, well, me, I think that really like this make, I was thinking, I have like this constitution. There is an article that talks about the currency. And for me, this is something that this article was saying, like, you know, like the world central bank, for me, they are criminal. You know, I don't want anything. So for me, the constitution of the nation has nothing to do with euro, just with it works with currencies.
But that's I'm sorry, just a very small, because that's what you're saying is that I agree 100% with you. The thing is, if you do that and you want to design an economic system for a country, cryptocurrencies might not work, because a country, and this is something that I don't think that we have to. I don't think it's a power that we have to take away from a country. A country that is decent and well governed needs to be able to issue currency. You know, that's the thing. And I'm super pro Bitcoin, but I believe that a country, in order to run its state, in order to have relations with other states, it needs to be able to devalue its currency. It needs to be able to issue currency. Otherwise, it's a tiger with no teeth. And a country does need teeth.
Well, perhaps we don't need tigers anymore.
Maybe not. Maybe not. That's a good argument, you know. But maybe not. Maybe not. But you know, a state needs to. I'm thinking about Catalonia. We need to be able to defend ourselves. I mean, look at how we are. Why are we the way we're now? Because we don't have an army. Because we don't have a currency. If we had an army, we had a currency, we wouldn't be beaten about because we won a vote. Yeah. That's something that is a very important thing to consider also being myself an anarchist and all as utopian as you all might want to be, but still.
There should be a new way to form a nation without the force of the military strategies that it was 10 years ago. That was working now, but now perhaps we should think creatively how we can make a new nation. How can we born a new nation without the traditional ways to born a new nation?
I think when you talk about the teeth, that's like the old paradigm of having to have a police enforcement that's like goes to your house and like takes you to jail if you don't pay taxes.
No,
I mean,
not exactly.
Or maybe that's what you meant with the defense. I mean,
Exactly.
To be able to protect citizens. I mean, you could also organize defense in a different way. It doesn't have to be the way it's done today.
That's for sure. I'm 100%.
Yeah, exactly. So there's also
100%.
there's one D app. So basically, all these nations will be using D apps, which are applications on top of Bitnation, or are basically all kinds of blockchain applications. So there's one defense D app called the Umbrella, and they offer people to use security services from local security providers, but it's not agencies, it's individuals. Maybe it could be a retired military veteran, maybe it could be like a white hat hacker who wants to offer cyber security. They can offer their services even without money. That's like a very interesting concept, because for many people it's too expensive to buy security. They also have the option to exchange services. So if they help you, you can offer them, for example, to give them a haircut, or I don't know, like many things. So you can even imagine, moneyless service exchanges, like time banks, basically, where they offer their time. Based on this time, someone else will offer them a service that is worth this time.
But see, this is very interesting, because here you've answered actually the question of defense. This to me is defense 2.0. Great. Now we can defend our territory, because we can look for people that are military that will be able to say, or people that know about security. It's their job. You'll just hide it. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about the time banks. Time banks and using time as a currency and the exchange of services, it's not different than a currency. It's exactly the same thing. The government will still need to be able to issue that currency, because the government does not cannot work without issuing some kind of credit. And this is what a government does when it pays to its public servants. It issues a currency, it pays to the public servants, and it distributes the money. In the old paradigm, nowadays it's the bank that does it. But in the end, you need to be able to issue something in order to pay your public servants and make the government work. So I'm wondering this other side of the requirement. In my opinion, the requirement, and if I'm wrong, please correct me, but a requirement for a state needs to issue a currency. That is exactly the problem that we try to solve with cryptocurrencies. But still, if you let's say, for example, this is the example of Pangea, which I think it's really a great lab rat. Okay, our government decides to make a digital Bitnation. The president will need to be able to have funds, pay the basic staff, the lawyers, the people that will have to make the government function. Maybe only the top level. What money will it use to pay these people?
Well, they could have an ICO. They could just create tokens, and so they could pay their public servants with these tokens.
Okay, that's the thing. So it would have to be either the nation creating a currency, or maybe the people themselves. You said something that was very good before. The pay for service. Yeah. So if you want to be a part of this nation, you have like a remittance fee, and then you're funding the government so that the government works.
Like a private company.
Like a private.
It would be
Like a club.
One of these would be like a club. If you like the services, you will club. You don't like this service.
It's like
you like
subscription fee.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like for me the reason I have like in the future that I really think that this will go this way will be like companies that compete between them to gain more citizens.
Yeah.
And you talk about the president. You're not thinking about having why we need a president. We could make like there's a system some guys call follow my vote that they do like votation through blockchain.
Okay.
And you can vote with your device. People could like make proposals like should we really want to whatever, you know, service health service that is more in a way like holistic health, like a culture, or more like a traditional whatever. People will make proposals and people will vote on this. I mean, like for me, I see like completely like private companies. You want this service, you pay for it. You don't want this service, you don't pay for it. You don't have it. There's this book called La Era del Diamante. It's the book that's one of the science fiction that because they are ordered described in fields. They call it files. It's like this. It's jurisdiction.
Yeah.
No, not.
And there's like a guy is like, wow, I need this service. I'm not checking if they have this service. Like claps.
But then you see a problem of, you know, then you will have super nations that will be extremely wealthy. You will not be able to get in the club. Why? Because you have to pay and you don't have the money. Like this is one of the problems that I've been struggling with a lot. If we think that what you're describing is what we have in my Bitnation. Everybody that is an artist pays a fee, monthly fee, for a rent of a space, and pays a little bit more than the rent to run the services of the building. Okay, this is a club, but not everybody can make this club. Because not everybody has the money. So,
but they can also offer services instead of money. So that would be up to you as a nation builder how you design your system.
Yeah.
If you only allow, let's say, monetary payments, or if you also allow other forms of payments, okay, working, or maybe some forms of social value. I don't know, like you can think about different. So that's actually also what I want here. So we already discussed like what are the main things that need to be changed or should be provided, like the constitution, laws, monetary system, and defense. Basically, what you said before.
Yeah.
So now we can do, like further maybe go down like to the more specific things that you think that are problematic here in Catalonia and what could be offered specifically as a new debt, let's say, or by a nation, which should the Catalonia 2.0, for example, offer to you to make you want to use this instead of the existing system.
Yeah. I think that there is definitely something that Catalans, at least the ones that have been struggling with ideas and so on. There's one thing that we all miss, which is more democratic representation. This is something that is very easy to explain, and that a lot of people are actually really want to see. So, what you're saying, you know, every time that there's a law, a little bit like in Switzerland, more direct democracy. Everything that goes to parliament goes to popular vote, and this is something that you definitely can explain. I disagree. I think that parliament, maybe not a parliament the way it is now, but I think that a parliament, in my mind, is a place where you have people that are highly educated, know very very well about some things. But it's maybe not the way the parliament nowadays is. But you know, if somebody's talking about healthcare, I want him to be about that. I want him to know everything there is to know about healthcare. I don't want somebody that comes from a political party and it's just.
For example, Consejería Sanidad, he's, I think, he's like the CEO of insurance, you know, like the one.
Yeah, but that's precisely what I'm saying. That's a terrible problem, you know. What I'm saying, but still, that don't mean you don't. So the way I imagine a parliament, I definitely want in front of something that has to take decisions in terms of also value something.
Yeah, but perhaps it would be so sorry. Yeah.
And it's
trusted third parties, and it doesn't have to be the same for everything. For mobility services, you will delegate. For health services, you will delegate. Your open policy can be delegated. You can always use it if you use it. That's mandated by the constitution. I agree that as a next step, it's important to have a system where your voice can be heard, so that you have a feeling of motion. Because detention is static, and obviously you find unexpected challenges, but so you can able to voice
Also,
on this evolution.
Also, with liquid democracy, the interesting aspect is that everyone can take back their vote from the people, from the guy that they gave them votes to. Where in the existing system, you need to wait 4 years until you can vote someone else, and it's like horribly slow and static. I mean, like things change overnight. Like things are very dynamic in today's world. And, you cannot think in a 4-year period. I mean, you want to change, like let's say your representative, maybe if he was doing a horrible job, like immediately, not like give him 3 more years to like waste your vote.
Let me put a case though that defies that, just to be the devil's advocate. The case of the taking of the guns in Australia. Australia was very much a gun country until I think it was 87 or 89 or something like that. In 1 year, they had 3 mass shootings in 3 different schools. They were terrible mass shootings, and the Prime Minister said, "That's it. I'm taking all the guns away," which is what the United States should do. But everybody jumped on. Everybody was crazy, guns, because it's a gun country, that part of the arguments. But he just pulled through. He pulled through, he took all the guns out of the streets, and 8 years later, everybody's like, no, we don't have much shootings anymore. Death rates went much lower. The crime changed completely. It went from extremely violent and murderous crime to a lot more manageable crime. So everybody that was against, even the ones that were against him before, now they have to say, no, that's right. He just had the balls to do it. But in this case scenario, this guy would be open.
Yeah, but there are so many cases when the decision is not distributed, that is, the result is so much worse that
Sorry?
Smoking inside restaurants.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is that.
Yeah.
Also, I was supporting
Yeah.
So I think that's like also something really like where you just force something on top of like a whole geographic like nation state, where maybe there's lots of people who would stick like amongst each other, not so that they would do this and it would be against the law. So like there you have against the problem of the one size fits all model, where you design like one law and like all of the millions of people in this country, they have to accept this, and maybe also amongst them they would like do it differently. So I think that's also not the right solution. Also regarding the gun control aspect, how would you even control if, like in a virtual nation, if someone owns a gun or not? Would you even control this?
That's a very good case, because what I am trying to do is to make the Catalan nation possible, future Catalan nation, make it meet with the virtual nation possibilities and see if it fits the requirements. So we're seeing where the virtual nation is short and how can we overcome it. So for example, this would be a case. There's certain aspects of regulations of how countries have evolved, guns and tobacco, where you have needed a government to say, from now on, you just cannot do this.
Yeah, but this, nowadays we have like, I think, locally web pages. I think there was some web that you can download and like a plan.
Plan, yeah.
Of gun,
Yes, the 3D printable card.
Yeah, the 3D printable. So there are things that maybe should be more thought, like
Yeah.
like
Yeah, no,
research.
for sure, for sure.
But sorry, but
Go on.
I can imagine a better world with so much concentration of power, even though after the years, it's a good result. Because that point was a good result. Smoking was perhaps also a good, I don't know if they make a votation, we can say, or ask everybody will go with a right to the same. But to concentrate the power of decision in a few people, most of the time the issue is it goes wrong. Because it goes to overpower about the population, corruption, fascism, and I think the paper of the politicians and the decision makers in a future nation, and more in the less paper for the politicians, more paper for the knowledge specialists, and much more distribution in the voting for what the community wants. If you are not agree with that, you just go out to the community that you don't have.
Values, you can be values. But you also like your community that it's not
I have to still keep being the devil's advocate. I see terrible populism coming out of this. Terrible populism coming out of this. I see it as a very bad idea. I think that if you take a representative, even if it's a specialist, and you only give him one chance to fail, to the public's opinion, which does not mean that public's opinion, you're creating a democracy that will only work for populism. And that is very
I don't get this point.
See, yeah, for example, if you, let's say that you were talking about, let's put the example of the healthcare representative. Take a guy, he's a very good doctor, he's really a guy that knows how the healthcare system works.
It can be a pool of
yeah, I'm just putting the example of one guy, or you want a table, one representative, 10 representatives. They really know their thing. So, okay, we're going to organize healthcare. And these guys say, look, we have to up the budget 10% or 15% in a time when there's a crisis. So people don't like taxes. But if we don't do this, we will not have the resources of research, and in the following 5 years, we will not have cures for this, or we will not have enough vaccines, and we will see the rise nowadays of some diseases that we already fought and that were already won. If that is left to the public opinion, you will see the diseases rise again. And unless this person knows how to work in a environment where he promises one thing, promises another, and tries to make as wide as possible his constituency in order to pass these rules. So it's a very tricky thing. I think that it makes a lot of sense that representatives have some time to learn because they do have to do things that are not popular. That's actually why you do.
But also that's why you, as the nation builder of the nation, are free to design the system in a way that you can, for example, mandate something for the people who join you, and have others that can be voted on. So it's up to you, like, to design this. And like, if you will see in the competition of different nation, let's say, providers, if your system will succeed or not.
But that's great. That's the thing, is that these are the things that have to be in the constitution.
Why not decide it like we see really trying to be very realistic.
Yeah.
To have a new solution. Like yesterday, we see some articles, like some friends, like similar proposal, but be realistic. Like really, I would really like very much to in terms of energy, be working with this function called power ledger, working in Australia or some countries, whatever. But we have to be very realistic. And right now, it cannot work. So I thought, why don't we link this settlement jurisdiction with some energy,
Yeah.
Like green energy, and it's already running here, it's existing, it's working. So to be realistic, step by step, like as we're going with them in the future, maybe this thing of power ledger goes and that's like working very well with the streets. And in terms of healthcare, we look at like some sort of like health insurance or health cooperative in London, where you have a service that is more not completely peer-to-peer, but intermediary way, like.
But
Like
that's a very good idea. The example of Somanergia,
exactly, something like this, like be
but for the healthcare.
Yeah, exactly. That's
I don't
what,
think
that's
it
what I'm
is.
thinking. Like to go step by step, because you cannot think like, no, you're gonna run just in blockchain like peer-to-peer from the first day. Which you like it would take 10 years, 20 years. We have to get
Can you explain this energy or
Somanergia,
people that have like
it's a cooperative that everybody that is a part of the cooperative pays their energy directly to them. It's like I don't know the name. It's a collective payment group. So everybody that is inside Somanergia pays the electric bill to Somanergia, and then Somanergia uses all the money to go negotiate with the electricity companies. All of the money that they pay has to come from Britain.
well,
So it's like a middle guy.
Yeah, but they produce.
They also produce it.
They also
Yeah.
produce it. So it's
It's a great
like start between
but the thing is that you choose to give your money to them. You're not forced to pay.
No, it's like changing your company.
They have this system, but they have the power of the power. At the moment, they generate their own get part of the art of the but they generate for the whole and the idea when the regulation is being adopted that the members of the cooperatives
I could imagine this kind of model working also for other things in energy. I mean, to have, let's say, like the combined like bargaining power of the nation, of the members of this voluntary nation, to use it for other things that are that cannot be distributed directly between the people of this nation. To use this to have better prices, to get bulk prices. For example, for defense, they could like. They want to, of course, all of these things are also only if they want to. So they will combine, let's say, some contributions for getting the defense of their territory, maybe. They could do this for getting access to, I don't know, like to good education, or maybe to like, you could imagine like this model, I think, for the agency, and which still is only like a voluntary model. It's a really interesting case.
That's a very good thing, because Somanergia, in my mind, it's very much the way you would want to run an energy company. You have the anarchist ideals at heart, especially and so on. I never thought that you could use that same model of healthcare. That would be a very good idea, because then you're saying you're not falling into what I'm scared of, which is I know that somebody at Somanergia knows a lot about it. I don't even need to know who he is. I know if he does a bad job, he'll probably get fired or something. But I definitely know that he knows how to do those things. I don't need to do it myself, And with the healthcare system, the same. But see, this is a sub-governance, because cooperatives already have their own system, and there's already statutes and it's established how cooperative works long time. So it's something that already runs by itself. It would be a little bit like a sub part of the retention.
Like linking decision, I like to take like out of the way who I should talk to.
Yeah.
And I would just like once a year for energy, like any transport, because I think there's something about transport and renting cars, electric cars, that education, and all the matter of comunidade, some connection. So they're growing. So you have energy, then something like with software, like you look for some
I don't think it exists. I don't think it exists, but it's a very good.
then education as well, and from like the origin of a lot of healthcare insurances are they were
Mutuas, son cooperativas.
so before the civil war, two of water, kind of like what they have common interest, share risk.
I think in general, like these health workers, mutual system, they were in general like peer-to-peer. Basically, it was before it was mandated by the law. I think it was already existing like on volunteer basis between workers. And I think also in Germany, actually, they say like Germany was the first country to design healthcare law, but actually there was already a functioning like insurance system between workers that they themselves drafted without the government telling them to do this. So in many cases, actually, people come up with something voluntarily between each other, and then the government comes and says, okay, it's good like this, so we make this a law. Then times like the environment changes and things are not the same way as before, but the law is the same, then it's not flexible anymore. So that's the problem. When the government says, okay, it has to be like this, and even though people maybe would do it in a different way, they can still do it on a volunteer basis. So that's a problem when government makes it static instead of having it on a volunteer and dynamic basis.
Yeah, what basically what's coming about now with these conversations, where you divide the services requirements and so on of citizenship into unions that are sectorial.
For companies,
Yeah, I've heard about the data. That's interesting.
It's like a marketplace. So
Yeah.
I think it's more for registering companies or for like creating your company on the blockchain instead of registering to the company.
So you can run your company like you can your company, the people feel like I feel like I don't even know you don't need to there. And like set up your own token related to you know whatever you want. Say take to your workers to smart contract. There's a system of voting.
But as a reminder, that it has to be accepted by the client.
But depends
In
on
order to, because if they, a client pay you a company that is not in any place. So they say, well, I can demonstrate my transaction.
Yeah.
So of course, the clients would have to agree with this that it's not in the Spanish jurisdiction, but it's in the blockchain.
Yeah.
They would have to understand a little bit about the code to understand that their money is safe and it's not going to be stolen. So yeah, of course, you still need to have like some knowledge about.
Not even for the fair that we should not be.
No, I understand what you're saying.
But you are a company.
Suppose you trust each other, but the problem is that you are colliding with the law of the nation you are. So you need to pay taxes in that nation.
You cannot say, no, I pay you.
yeah, but there's this thing that for the people that will see that yeah, I'm hardly of cryptocurrency that 15 years or 20 years euro or dollar will not exist.
I think that's wishful thinking.
And it's like
there won't be, but there will be a crypto dollar and a crypto euro.
yeah, there will be like very low.
We already have crypto ruble and like some governments starting to create their currencies because they're desperate. I mean, because they see that cryptocurrencies are much better currency than their own, and they just try to force people to use this cryptocurrency instead of the other one. So they already recognize that their actual, let's say, legal tender, their country is not as good as a cryptocurrency substitute.
Yeah. But the thing is that the taxes, you see these people, like everybody, like just working in crypto or whatever. Like taxes will become voluntary anyway, because if you have your money in a wallet, if they can take your money from your wallet, and you're the only one that has it seat, taxes will be voluntary.
But
you're gonna end up in
they will be voluntary in the way cryptocurrencies are designed today. And this is precisely one of the things that I strongly believe that it's one of the problems that cryptocurrencies need to fix. I think that until cryptocurrencies manage to make a sound, reasonable tax system, cryptocurrencies will be a problem more than a solution. They're a solution for us now because we're enthusiasts, but they will be grand and larger problem because because they are safe haven for people that don't want to pay taxes.
No,
taxes
but
need to be.
I think it's already, the system is already said when you make a transaction, you have to pay a fee automatically for the mining.
Yeah.
And you can divide this fee for other fees. One mining to make the system work, one other for these people who think the sabios, one other for the healthy. So in every movement you do, that's why I don't think it needs to be voluntary. Actually, it goes as you move.
You're talking about something like VAT.
Yeah.
When you pay for something, you pay tax.
Even you can do something, but when you do a transaction, everything is set in the contract. So also the taxes are set.
Well, but the currencies doesn't have
you have the work because you need to confirm transactions of others. So every time you want to have a transaction, you need to confirm two other transactions. So you do the work instead of paying something. So you still have the cost. Yeah, but you have the cost yourself.
So the payment is there.
You can decide it will be no fee for me, or will be a fee for using. Because this need pay this consensus, make the society work.
make your own currency. I think like currency that can just somehow you make a currency that just can be mined by those computers that will be under control of this nation.
Yeah.
And every time that you like the miners will get the money, that money will be paid on tax.
The government is the miner.
Yeah, but see, this is very interesting because there are many ways of taxing citizens, but there's three main ways. One is inflation, the other one is impuesto sobre el valor añadido, and the other one is impuesto sobre la renta. The problem that we have here is that the tax that has made countries become more equal is the impuesto sobre la renta. The taxes, because it's progressive, the taxes over the value are taxes that are completely unprogressive. So it means everybody pays the same whether you're poor or rich. The taxes on inflation, same thing. So everybody pays according to what they have, the percentage, but it's the same percentage for everybody. It's not progressive. So taxation does not only work to make the state work, it also works to make wealthy people not so wealthy, poor people really wealthy.
Let me tell you something about that. That's a solution for that. Okay? If you combine a fixed percentage taxation with a personal basic income, okay, you can have exactly that.
That's a very good point. Yeah, I heard about the idea of the universal income only if you need it. Or you say completely universal, everybody else.
You can design
everyone receives basic income. That's enough to pay for the standard of living. Then everyone needs to pay taxes for all the money they have above
that
basic income.
Okay.
And that's very progressive.
Yeah. That's a very interesting point. So, because this is easy to implement with the cryptocurrency, because the problem is that the IRPF and the taxes on renta, very hard to set up on cryptocurrency, because it kind of defies the idea of
it would take away your privacy.
It takes away the privacy.
You would have to open your wallet to everyone.
And then why have a cryptocurrency?
Why not just give your private key directly?
This is the tax of income. Yeah, or tax of income. It's see, the renta. You could translate it also as a patrimonio anual. What you acquire through the year.
So the more you earn in the year, the more you
exactly
have.
the more you get.
But yeah, so we actually have this already. Like we have someone working on a DM that would give people voluntary basic income. And so because we also think in order to be able to think about these things, about systems, philosophy, how should government work in a more ethical way, you need to have like a minimum baseline, let's say, to be able like to not run after like just basic survival. So else you're stuck in your bubble and you're not able to think about these things. So you need to have like some basic income, and then you can start to, for example, follow the topics and vote. Vote if you have time to vote. You should even have this baseline. So you could set up the system in a way that maybe you have some. Of course, all of this tokens, to use this token is already voluntary, but by participating with this token, have, let's say, some fixed percentage that you pay, and you can even pay more depending on yourself. So you can also, if you want to, maybe pay more and get a better reputation. And depending on like how much of the whole network is paid, like everyone can get automated dividend.
Sorry for definitely more.
This is not from ourselves. This is from Johan Nygren, who was developing this like as a third-party developer, and we would offer this as a DM that we can use, so that every nation can use.
But when you say we can use the nation itself, as everything is coordinated as how it works actually with nation.
So the thing is, we just create open source code that everyone can use, and also the people we collaborate with, they also create open source code. So it's all about like having exchanges between like this ecosystem that's like you can use this part of the code for your nation or that for the nation. So eventually the nations that are built on Bitnation, they could even like separate themselves from Bitnation, just offer as like a standalone thing. So they would have like all the code for themselves to even run maybe their own currency, their own network. So the idea is really just to have this tool so people can start off to create all these things. And we have like some basic things like law, like contract law, arbitration, dispute resolution. But maybe some nations could even say when they at some point in the future are developed enough to just even do this without the whole Pangea network. Or even
everything is open source.
Yeah. So that's the thing. We also because we believe in this idea of opening up a new market basically that didn't exist before. We didn't have like a government service to choose from. Like you had a monopoly basically based on where you were born. So in order for this to work, we need competitors. We want others to copy our idea or to modify this idea, so we have competition because we don't want to be another monopoly.
Yeah. Then when you speak competitors,
would be different
inside the Bitnation.
No, it would not be inside of Bitnation. It would just be a whole separate infrastructure.
So Bitnation is one.
Yeah. So all the nations that are built through Pangea, through the app, they would be like inside of this whole infrastructure, so they can use our infrastructure. But we also want like competing, let's say, infrastructure provider. Yeah. So for the beginning of the token sale, we want to have like at least the interface, so you will already have on Android, on iOS, the user interface, the UI. But like throughout the sale, we will keep like adding new functions. So you will already have the function to create a nation, to become a member of a nation, to go out from the nation. So you can already, let's say, start marketing your idea of a nation. And then, like over time, we implement all the smart contracts, and I think it should already be possible to make like agreements. So you can like start making templates and to already do like very primitive or easy transfers, and then over time will become like sophisticated.
Several nations at the same time.
So, like, Bitnation is the infrastructure provider, but nations are DBVNs, like I said before. So these what we call Bitnations. That is you have like different, let's say, nations to choose from. It could be anything. It could be like Catalonia. It could be a refugee nation. It could be like a nation set up for all the refugees in the world, so they can like give service to each other or like help other refugees. It could be a gay nation, like for all the people who are discriminated in their local countries. Like it could be for all the minorities in the world, but it could also be Aboriginal tribes even. Like even if they maybe do not have the technical understanding, like there could be like the mayor or something representative of them, like talking for them in place of them to create their own nation, to like get their sovereignty back from the nation where they have been expropriated. Imagine, let's say, a tribe in the Amazon, in the rainforest, that's like completely deprived of their land, of their way of living, and they are forced to like live like everyone else in the city and to do like the jobs where they used to like live in nature. And maybe you could also even use this model to claim back their sovereignty. I know that this is very difficult, but already you would have, let's say, a higher or like a more transparent voice, you know, for them, so they can be represented on the blockchain, where you see how many people support this, and let's say the whole peer-to-peer network will be their legitimacy instead of the government.
Do you answer my question? Can you be part of two nations at the same time?
Yes.
Or 5 nations or 10 nations?
It depends really like on the services that are provided to this nation, but they don't collide with each other. You have like a nation where you just provide legal services, or where you just provide, I don't know, education or like, and I think there will be ways that nations can also cooperate and like make agreements with each other. That like one citizen can use this service from that nation, the other nation, the other service from the other nation. But really, it's like all a voluntary network where I think people are able to come to agreements. That's the whole thing about Pangea as well, that people will make voluntary agreements.
Sounds very powerful.
Dictatorship as well, if you want.
Like to be under the dictatorship.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm afraid you would be surprised.
Like we had like the example in the demonstration of the app. We had like example you could choose from Bitnation and Modular, like Modular from Lord of the Rings.
And how many nations already, and what's the first nation created, like recently or?
So what is created on the nation is still like in the intermediary stage. It's just about like creating it, making, let's say, marketing for it, to have people going into it, but to have the actual functionalities of the smart contract, it will have to be on the Pangea, where we have like all this interlinked with the Ethereum blockchain. So right now on the website, it's just, you know, to give you an idea, you know, but all of this will be moved to the Pangea app, where you can really start to do services.
But it's weird because the way we did it, because we saw that basically we could only do the login application, not much more. But our association, our cultural association, started working within us with cryptocurrency. So we're not a nation defined in their system, but we already started working that way. Of course, we don't have smart contracts to define our relations. We define our relations by trust.
Yeah.
So you know, we're in 19 people now, and we just pay each other. We make sure that everything that we need to run the building goes to cryptocurrency, and when we need to buy something, we can check it. In our case, because we're a cultural association already in the real world, and we're a cultural association specifically because we wanted to step away from the. I've been an entrepreneur for a long time, and I had some bad experiences as an entrepreneur man, and I decided that I wanted to make something where money was not the center of the. It was more of a collaborative. It's a lot less stressful.
Also talking about trust, I think it's like one really interesting aspect. So about blockchains, the whole idea is that you do not need to trust the others because you can trust the protocol. Yeah. But then again, someone reminded me in the last meetup that, okay, it's really cool ideas and so on, but the problem right now with blockchain is the fees, the transaction fees. Like you want to have a lot of transactions between each other, but as of now, the prices are rising and the fees for each transaction are getting more and more costly, so people do not want to spend their money anymore. They would rather sit on the money and hope to make revenue from speculating and selling. So one idea to solve this problem is like trust lines network. So you could have, for example, a nation where you just like you have transactions between people you know, like the peers in your nation, and just the nation builder, let's say, or the center, let's say, of this makes look like one transaction. So you have like lots of transactions between all of these people. And after you finish, you do all these transactions off chain, blockchain, and then you close and you make the transaction like it was one.
Yeah.
So this way you save all the transaction costs because you trust each other. So like in your network, your local network, you can like have trust lines that you forward trust to each other, so you save the transaction fees.
Yeah. It's a governmental bank. You have a public bank that carries the currency of all the associates of that.
You could imagine a renting model. So basically, in your nation, let's say you pay, let's say in advance what you calculate the transaction fees for all these people, and they have to pay a sort of rent, so they can make all their transactions for free in your nation.
Yeah.
And then like you sign this, and let's say for a month, or I don't know which periods you want to calculate.
And every 30 days you just balance shit everything.
So this way you can avoid this whole problem of having like costly transactions the more people use Ethereum or Bitcoin and so on. So because if you want to scale this and really billions of people will use blockchains, you will have like immense transaction fees. Of course, that blockchain should be designed in a different way. We will probably see other currencies and other systems that will succeed this, what we have today. But there's still this issue of how to solve the problem of making the blockchain in a way that it cannot be hacked by a 51% attack, and on the other side, not having these high costs. So this is like one way to solve this problem, by having these trust lines in a nation where the peers in this network trust each other.
I'm really sorry, this is very interesting, but I have to leave. I hope I will see you soon. I'll be at the meetup.
Yeah.
And I look forward to try Pangea as soon as possible.
Yeah, sure. Keep in touch. If you want, you can come again. The idea is to have at least one meetup per month.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Great. Nice meeting you, everyone.
Right. Bye.
And to understand it for you, so you are, you can say, working with Bitnation. And Bitnation is creating this Pangea, which are going to be the tools.
It's the app, basically.
And these, there are people involved from all over the world.
Yes.
The big thing, it began how many years ago?
More than 3.5 years ago, actually. So we had already 3 iterations. We first of all tried to do everything on blockchain, then we realized this would be way too slow and also really bad, because then you would have all the communication on the blockchain and you would have no privacy at all, no protection from the governments. In the second iteration, we were using secure scuttlebutt, but we realized their protocols also not so good. Then we decided, in the third iteration, which is now, to design it on our own. So the communication protocol that we use is our own design. It's the Pangea mesh network. And it's designed in a way that is completely independent from blockchains. So you have like this overhead where people host their data and request data from others. So there's no central server. So it's also like a peer-to-peer communication database, let's say. And at the same time, all the communication can also work without internet. So it's designed as a sneaker net where also when you have cables or Bluetooth or relays, you can have like a 20-kilometer radius where people inside of this radius can also use Pangea without actually having access to the internet. So you can use this in third world countries, specifically where there's lots of corruption, governance is bad. You can offer governance services that the current governments don't even provide, like land titles in Ghana. In Ghana. So this is one example that I use very often. In Ghana, the administration is not really taking care of the land titles of their citizens. So most of the land is more informal. People just use it and own it as farmers, or they build buildings on it. They have no certificates. And they cannot make legal contracts with this. They cannot monetize. They cannot use this, for example, to get access to loans or to get access to anything to this. So what you could do is to put their GPS coordinates on the blockchain and to create a land title certificate independent from the Ghana jurisdiction, but on the blockchain. So you would have a new standard that would, completely be outside of the local jurisdiction. And you could still use this to make agreements. So you could actually start monetizing something that wasn't possible before. And at the same time, this is not only for land, but also in general, you have 2 billion adults in the world that are unbanked, that have no access to our financial markets. And by giving them a blockchain ID and by giving them this sort of certificates, they would also get access to our financial markets, which they couldn't before.
I'm coming from a welfare society. That's a lot of money. And there have been some very few visiting from experiments. I was an industry in Europe saying, okay, well, they're going to put down a lot of the bureaucracy, people with dealing anything inside of them. I mean, more kind of some security. The students, the old people, something I have maybe one before is they're getting money from the state. And something I said, they're going to the welfare system. And they're all going to use the token system. They have to buy some food. And we are asking people to make businesses to use that token. So this system is spreading around with the government. So we say, for those people who contribute to the
Yeah.
Why should this be the tokens?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, that's also the idea, like I said before, that you can also with nations that do not have to request users to or citizens to use money, but to do other things that can be exchanged in tokens, like services, or like you say, just the basic income tokens. So,
of course, you leave them out because like services together, that is the exchange of tokens.
This way, you cut out all the bureaucracy.
Yeah, bureaucracy, taxations, and if you get more money, then that's something you need to do the euro system. Interesting. Exchanging is more groups.
This actually brings us to another interesting aspect, like also with the conflicts with the existing nations. So in order to avoid this many conflict by creating a new system, we would also offer existing nations to use our system to offer voluntary services, not only in their geographic locations, but to the world, like Estonia. So the use case or the strategy would be to not have conflicts with existing nations by collaborating. So we could offer, for example, that they put some specific services that they think are very efficient to not only offer this in their local place, but to also use Bitnation to offer this to global potential user base, and to decouple this from the geographic dependence. So they could actually get more taxpayers to their system that are voluntary because of Bitnation, but still it would increase their tax base. So we would actually also start collaborating, and this would maybe help recognition of the other Bitnation nations by actually actively working with nations. So I think if we go in this direction to, I mean, it will also be for many smaller countries specifically a way how to survive, actually, like Estonia, like to go on this way to rethink their business model. Because they're losing taxpayers because many people are moving out of that country, and yeah, this is a way to make them attractive.
But that works exactly the same for the I think that we're going to be seeing in the following months something changes. Not the following months, maybe we're going to see a government that is just in between working, not working, or trying to work and not doing. And I think that one of the things that really caught me about what this guy said is that if you do the basic income, you actually could solve the currency issue because the government needs that currency with which pays the basic income, and that is right there, the state.
Income, BNI. Income is European initiative. They're going to test 3 or 5 different regions. Some families are getting money because some families are getting money in exchange, and this money is a cryptocurrency. Okay. In exchange of participating in some social services in the neighborhood.
Where is this happening?
DBVN Barcelona. No, the social right. B minus income. Or you
For mining.
yeah. U I. No. The income.
Income with starting and
I can add this later in the comments of the GitHub group so everyone can see.
This year it was all designing process and cases.
what frequency they're using the specific.
I think they are going to
It's a very small amount. Financing. It's a lot of how many organizations about we have a very good percentage.
Actually, this idea of a token tag is already incorporated in this voluntary basic income token that I explained before, where you could set up the token in a way that never transaction. You have like a fixed voluntary tax in it by using this token. And plus, you can just add, let's say, how much you want, and maybe use it maybe for better or improve your reputation.
So the transactions there has been a trial to implement tax like this on split transactions. So this is one of the reasons why we have so much work. Like the example I told you about the law of rights of road. Another initiative was a tax on split transactions on the back. It's passed in Parliament. I know that in Europe, there have been some trials, not very successful, of taxing interbank transactions.
Yeah, the problem with all these models is that they're forced. You basically force all these people. Our idea was, to do this in a voluntary economic system. Yeah, so there's the complete change of the incentives. Before the incentive was fear, that you're afraid of going to jail, basically. And now the incentive is different. Now you have like a positive incentive that you maybe get even more customers, or you, I don't know, like could design like a completely different incentive network.
Yeah.
Programs that you have to make.
The regulation thing for me,
yeah, of course. We know exactly what.
Well, it's what they're doing in China now.
It's
we know that this is like a problem, especially when humans rate each other. That's why Pangea is also being built right now in the way that for completing contracts, the reputation token is distributed through an AI bot. So it cannot be, so it cannot be corrupted through humans and can be exploited like from this episode.
You will get your reputation
According to how well you behave with the robot. With the robot masters.
No.
I know.
It's scary for people. You have a robot that gives you like, for example, for voting, we're saying, like, okay, we give IDs to the people, and if people want to vote, how can we really sure that it's not a Russian vote?
Yeah, or maybe it's just a machine.
Making IDs, fake identities to win an election. We talk about losing to give them reputation tokens, not to be sure that they are people. If they accomplish the contract.
So this guy was designed the voluntary basic income. He also had an idea how to verify that pseudonymous users are actually humans.
Yeah.
So they should have a way to prove this without giving away their biometric data, without giving their name, because this is the very fear that they can be punished by the government. So he thought of a game where basically all the millions of people who are pseudonymously on, not only on Bitnation, but also on other platforms, they would be grouped into 5 and would do like video hangouts. Then you would just verify each other that you're humans, and you get points, and there's like a game in it. And if one room has like more machines than humans, there's not going to be like this facial recognition. Or basically, it should be designed in a way that the machines cannot take over the room. It should be more humans than machines in the room. And like he has like some specific technical things with this. But we are also thinking about this concrete problem, like how to prove that someone is not a machine.
Yeah. Well, proving that someone is not a machine, it's easy. Nowadays, the Turing test still works. The problem is whether somebody can have several like or create human bots,
Even more, like this is called proof of individuality. So that it's not only human, but it's also individual. Because like these tests, let's say these hangouts, they're all at the same time.
Okay.
So with this one, let's say a public address, you can only be in one room at a time.
Yeah.
You cannot
The
split
kind
it
of
up.
blockchain.
Yeah.
I mean, get your information from a system where to make sure.
And also this is decaying. It's not forever. So like you get some sort of also individuality token or something like this, or equal to nil, I think. And this, like also you have to repeat this every month or something like this. Because it could be already like someone else, or it could be a machine. So like you have to repeat this and prove that you are just one individual. And
but looking at the case of an actual state, you could take it back to example. Wouldn't it be better that you actually identify yourself like with a normal personal ID card? Only the ID card is private, secured, you know, with some kind of photography, but you are the private key. You know, either through digital fingerprint or
It's a blockchain.
it's a little bit.
wait, so you would use your actual state's ID or what?
Well, it doesn't. You would need to identify your identity in the country.
Yeah.
And the fingerprint, even though the identity is protected publicly, fingerprint is yours, right?
Okay.
Yeah, that's very scary. That's very scary.
Without and blockchain, it's very scary. And
Yeah.
we end up in a genocide.
This is the one we did. So 3 hours.
Yeah, we were talking with Eric about making, like, we was like, I have a lot of friends that like this and we were talking like, why would we don't meet that, but people will come with the ID, like with DNA, Spanish ID card, and say, like, I would like to get your ID. But then knowing how the Spanish government works,
And of course, because it has
we're accusing of rebellion.
the identification inside the Catalan Republic, it would have to be cryptographic. Because it's that for the Spanish government is great. It's like you're putting all of them inside a club and giving them their identity.
Then you have all the names, yeah.
Now I know who I have to go to. Give them their head, you know. Yeah. They're waiting. Hey, hello. Thanks for meeting. Thanks for gathering all of us in the same place.
Yeah.
It's like,
But imagine then COVID,
So first of all, like we encourage everyone to use pseudonymous, to use Pangea pseudonymously, to like use our encryption for all their communications, and basically for transactions to just use the public address. Like you already have on blockchains, you use not a name, but you use like this letters and numbers. It's like your public address and the public key, and so yeah, like you could already start doing things and not knowing if it's actually a human or a bot, or like you don't know who it is, but the service is done, so you can already do things. It's, you maybe don't care who it is, but if you really care, then it's, for example, Catalan for votings.
for all the democracy.
Yeah. I think it's maybe we should design a system where you do, let's say, trust someone your ID that he's going to check it, but that's going to be a cryptographically encrypted communication where no one else is getting this information, and you really have to trust this one guy who's verifying you that he's not, or you have to somehow know, or maybe like you said, even with a bot, that's maybe a bot would be able, like with some software, to read this, and that the data from checking this is not going to be stored somewhere. It's just going to give him token, so it's like check, okay, he's a real Catalan citizen, but there's no database behind it. It's storing the name domains and so on.
I think that if we're talking,
but it's very dangerous. Yeah.
Small class, explanation, because then you don't.
Yeah, I mean, anything could be
made.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things that can experiment. Scale up.
Even as part of the foundation.
I'm thinking on the network that we want to kind of national group of consultants with a high degree of trust. Our governance system, but it just gets book and people follow the rules just like fast and so on.
I have a question. For public guidelines, what's the there's a difference between liberalism and this one freedom. It's very important. Liberalism is not that's just freedom. I mean, one thing freedom provides freedom is about increasing. You need to have a system that's maybe more populist thing. You need to have a populist thing that you are afraid of. If you have a minority of that, big groups, then you want to have a kind of big city, not a big, more smaller thing. I think that's more appropriate.
I mean, you also have to consider the definition of what is a nation actually. Like we today think nation are like these big aggregates, but actually nations is just the representation of a group of people that share a culture and common business. Maybe also a strong language, but apart from this, no one said that the nation has to be big. So that's why we call it nation, because nation is completely different from state.
So, nation neutral, it's on the city states of city. Not a thing, it's more partially. So, you have this nation thing.
Yeah, but it's also like about the like fighting for ideas. Like you should not accept the way that we are also anarchists. We connect anarchism and people throwing Molotov cocktails. I mean, actually, because it's just the absence of rules. So, like you should not, let's say, just give up on them occupying the world word with their definition. You should take back the words because it has an actual meaning. You should not just surrender with other words. So now we say nations are not like we think it is today. It's just the representation of who share a culture. So we're also all of this is about reshaping this communication.
I think that one very interesting point. As you're saying, you know, freedom. Try to bring that into practice. How we do it. So I think it would be a little better thought to say, okay, how do you organize your this is something because it is going to be fun. Like in any nation, in any organization, for instance, it would be exactly you will have people absolutely required solidarity in order for the nation. And tax is one of the ways. You know, maybe there's other ways of directly solidarity. This is something to be thought about.
People join. There's a need, with a critical need, only to
I think that it is interesting to talk about it because there's a difference. This is something that there's a difference between solidarity and charity, and it's something to be avoided, especially from the ideology. Charity is it's the person who is involved. Solidarity. When you give money for charity, you give money for personal value. You expect it to earn a certain moral high ground. Solidarity is across the board. Just make sure that
well, in religion they have this salaka. It's called DBVN. You're supposed to give one 20 part.
Yeah.
That's what you earn, like 3.5% what you earn to poor people. Again, you have
early stage tax system, but not organized politically or
very little.
you're supposed to do everything that you do it, you should say internally, but we say what you can. If you say internally, it's a matter. This is my contract.
It's an obligation. It's an obligation of your. Advance from the TM that you get to the church.
110?
TM.
50% of the government.
TM. It should be from the origin, 10% to foreign minister.
Delicate.
Yeah, it's a lot from the oil fund, 10% of that.
That could be written somewhere.
It definitely.
All these oil. Who knows what they will do with the money? Oil, and I know that this is now in the region as a good creation.
There's what I lived in Norway for a while. One of the things that I noticed is that it's true that right now there's a lot of
No, I think in Norway also.
But it's also true that it's very easy for Norwegians nowadays to fall into self and there's crazy evil corporations and crazy evil companies who they have a very good reputation, but there's a lot of right wing
I would like to get your. You'd like to have a look at the contribution.
Yes, please.
I can give you, well, or you give me your email and I send to you. Just to have a look and because I really need like. Yeah, we can give it to him.
We know each other, and everything. It's in my bedroom. That's terrible.